Da 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 da! Deck Tech, the video where we talk about my commander, my deck, and the cards I enjoy drawing. The Durable Coilbug, one of the least feared and possibly more forgotten creatures in Magic. Came out in Ikoria, and my real first exposure to it was in playing Arena. I just made a deck that was full of some black cards that I thought would be cool, and I like the art for this Coilbug, so I just jammed it in there. It's a 1 and a black for, I think it's a 2/2 Coilbug, and then you can pay 4 and a black to return it from the graveyard to your hand. That's it, that's all it does. It's just as a 2/2 creature for 2, it's efficient enough, and then the ability on it is probably fairly costly when you look at some of the things like the reanimating skeletons, where they just kind of come back from the graveyard for 1 black. But this one costs 4 and a black, so nobody would use it but probably me. But I was playing around with it, and I discovered on Arena with some of my other random black cards that I threw in there that, as far as a reanimation strategy went, it was kind of fun to bring this back. My opponent, don't think, really knew what I was up to, and then I could just put enchantments on it, make it really huge, and beat in with it. I'm not really high ranked on Arena, so this probably works at that level. But we'll cut to a quick clip of my Coilbug in an Arena game. It's just from my old gameplay video. I thought I'd highlight how happy this creature makes me for no good reason. So they could have made me discard this card. We are seeing the full glory of the Coilbug deck. Demonically embraced flying insect demon Coilbug. Everything Ikoria was ever meant to be for me. Yep, we can see the power of the Coilbug just as a pretty sweet creature. So I decided I would try to build a deck in paper for it, and I thought I'd build it in the Pauper format so that the Coilbug deck could maybe at some point fight the previously built YMCA Flash Mob on a bus deck. So we'll hop into the deck list that I have given for the Coilbug. I think it might be just about appropriately skilled in a super janky Pauper match. Over here on Architect, I have the Coilbug Pauper deck all laid out. I've named it Seeking the True Glory of the Coilbug, just because it's so janky it needs an impressive title. But basic package of lands, and the main focus of the deck is just stuff I want to try out in Pauper. So anything that looked kind of interesting and seemed to involve creatures popping in and out of the graveyard in a Pauper setting. So we've got our Coilbug, that's our main creature that we want to bounce in and out of the graveyard. But some other things that could be interesting would be this Cathodon, which when it dies it makes mana, so it would be good to put out and then have killed in a later turn like a mana battery. Our rank officer has a enter the battlefield trigger that also lets us discard a card to get stuff into our graveyard. Sleeper's Guile is whenever this is put into a graveyard, you can return it to your hand. So this is kind of like how Rancor is for green. This is the black version, and it just gives it basically gives fear to black creatures, which seem kind of cool. And then some equipment that if the equipped creature dies, I can gain 3 life. So the fact that I won't have a lot of blockers for most of the game because I keep killing them means I might need some of this black life gain. So Spark Reaper is going to be one of our engine pieces that lets us sack our creatures on the battlefield if our opponent isn't assisting us. I assume a lot of time our opponent's going to assist us. We also have this Sacrifice a Black or Artifact creature to add black mana
equal to the creature's casting cost. So this is our Monodork and Sacrifice engine combined together. The skeleton that's sufficiently more efficient than the Coilbug, and then the Mirror Servitor, which they bring themselves back, so having a full play set of these is almost a must. And we have a basic package of reanimation, Unearth, Exhume, and Disturbed Burial just kind of seemed like a good buyback option, so I only put one in the deck. And then because it's in Pauper, I put in a couple of Tragic Slips. I don't like playing the same cards over and over, but sometimes you have to have a little bit of creature control. Songs of the Dam seem kind of cool because I'm hoping I'll have enough creatures in my graveyard when maybe this will have a nice big turn. And then maybe Songs of the Dam can cast something like Death Denied with this X on it, so all of those creatures that fuel Songs of the Dam by adding that black mana that can just go right into this X, and it can return them all because it should give the same amount. I thought that was kind of cool synergy. I don't think that's going to work out every game, but it would be sweet. Trespasser's Curse, I just wanted to try, because if I have no other way to interact with my opponent, or they're like one of those Tron Fog lockdown decks, as long as they keep blinking their stuff, they'll die. It'd be kind of cool. And then Sadistic Glee, whenever creatures is put into the graveyard, I just have to put this on one of my creatures and then maybe not sacrifice that one. It could get really huge. And then basic land package, some swamps, Bajuka Bog, a few Barren Moors for cycling, a few Ash Barrens for cycling. It's pretty standard for what a monocolored Pauper deck would use. Probably more swamps than normal, but this is a pretty janky deck, so I don't have any efficiency to make up for the swamps otherwise. In the sideboard, there's nothing. There's a few different kinds of return spells, like Resourceful Return or Reaping the Graves has Storm. I don't know if I'll try this out or not. Kaya's Ghost Form gives me, I could put it on a creature and then it will stick instead of dying right away, and then Gravedigger helps me fetch something back as well. Demonic Appetite is the only enchantment I could find that would make my Coilbug operate the way it did when my first experience with it on Arena in the video. This is in the Pauper form, except for the fact that I can't return this enchantment from the graveyard like I could the Demonic Embrace. But I threw it in for flavor, but that's why there's only one in the sideboard. Death Greeter, I think, is actually a pretty good card. I found out it's not cheap-ish either as far as Pauper is concerned, but I liked that I could gain life as my stuff died too, so I think it's a sideboard card for this deck right now, but maybe it would have to be in the main. I don't know. Currently the sideboard is more like options that just didn't make the main cut. Dark Privilege is another boost my creature, but it also works as a sacrifice engine because you can just sacrifice stuff to add regenerate over and over if you really wanted to. And then another sacrifice engine, but more of a one-shot just to get a whole bunch of mana. There's still 5 slots in the sideboard, but as far as a janky deck goes, I'd probably just have to play it to see what it might need to run efficiently, even if it's not like a top tier meta powerful deck. But that's it, and we'll hop on to looking at my favorite cards. So the 3 cards I wanted to talk about most in the Coilbug deck are, first off, the Coilbug, since everything is kind of built around the fact that this creature could die and come back, even though it's possibly the least efficient creature for it, and the deck's made to help it out, but it's like a cool Pillbug thing, so we gotta build a deck for it. Okay, next most important card I think that I kind of wanted to highlight is this Trespasser's Curse. I haven't ever tried this card out in Pauper yet, so since this deck is kind of an experimental stomping ground of black cards with the Coilbug, this seemed like a good place to put it just to watch it in action for a while, since it's mostly going to, whatever my deck is doing isn't really going to affect how this card is functioning, but Pauper is a pretty creature based format, so this card could be pretty beneficial to try out, and I think it'll be fun. And lastly, so the rank officer. When I first encountered this card, we were doing an EDH league at my work, and we play cards at work a lot, usually on lunch. So the league kind of went as follows. When the precons come out per year, everybody gets a precon, and it doesn't have to be that year's precon. You can pick any precon you want for the league. Just pick one. And each week you could add a pack to it. And it didn't matter what, you could add any kind of pack you wanted. Go find whatever. And I had, it was 2018, I think, and I had the black and red precon deck with Chainer, and I opened this Modern Horizons pack to put cards in it, and the rank officer was kind of like an all-star of recursion in that deck. I think my most times I was able to recur in that deck was 6, but it was pretty cool that it had this nice discard engine to really help that deck run. I think Anya was supposed to be the general, but I might have been using Chainer. But either way, the discard trigger was really handy. The extra zombies were really handy. The fact that I could keep recurring this was really handy. So a black deck built around the idea of kind of bringing my creatures back seemed like a good spot to be trying this kind of a card out in the Pauper format. I think it could shine pretty well there, but I remember having a good time with it, so I thought I'd jam it in. All right, those are the 3 highlight cards that I had.